is going absolutely fantastic, and I welcome you back to 31 Days of Halloween. That's right, we are continuing my series on 31 of my favorite horror films. And today, we've got a really gross, creepy, and fun movie based on one of H.P. Lovecraft's most popular stories. And today we are talking about
Herbert West is at the top of his class in medical school.
How can you teach such drivel? These people are here to learn, and you're closing their minds before they even have a chance. What are you?
He's brilliant, but a little weird.
I've broken the 6 to 12 minute barrier. I've conquered brain death.
His experiments have always been unorthodox.
It was dead.
But lately they're getting out of hand. And he's just made a discovery that could wake up the dead.
Herbert West has effected reanimation in dead animal tissue.
What are you thinking? How do you feel? You?
15 cc's of reagent being administered.
Once you wake up the dead, you've got a real mess on your hands.
Herbert, you're insane! Now what happened? I had to kill him! He's dead?
Not anymore.
Herbert West brought a lot of dead people back to life, and not one of them showed any appreciation. H.P. Lovecraft's classic tale of horror, Re-Animator.
Mr. West.
You'll never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow.
It will scare you to pieces.
Re-Animator. Oh, Re-Animator is such a fun film. If you haven't seen it, Re-Animator tells the story of young student Herbert West, who is obsessed with the idea of overcoming death. He is determined to create a serum that beats brain death. His reagent. The movie opens in Switzerland, where after performing some of his experiments, he is kicked out and he has to relocate to Miskatonic University. And med student Dan Kane is also, he's a nurse, and when we first see Dan, he is trying to resuscitate a patient, and unfortunately it doesn't go well. And he ends up getting Herbert West as his roommate, and West continually is very secretive, keeps to himself, because keeps heading down to the basement to do his work. And finally Dan confronts him and, what are you doing? And West convinces him to join him in helping out with these experiments. Dan, who also would like to beat death, agrees, but he does not realize the horrible side effects that this green, glowing reagent can do. And when the evil Dr. Hill discovers what they are doing, he tries to kill them and take the serum and all the credit for himself. So now we have a climactic battle between Herbert West and Dr. Hill. And it is brilliant. I love this movie so much. It's goopy and gory and gross and disturbing at times. And if you've seen the film, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. Not for kids. Do not let young children watch this movie. No. Let's talk about this movie. Stuart Gordon and Dennis Paoli originally intended this to be a faithful H.P. Lovecraft story, but the film ultimately had very little in common with the original story, which was intended to be a parody of Frankenstein due to budget concerns and constant rewrites. And even though Jeffrey Combs is phenomenal playing Herbert West, I wish we could have seen just a little bit more of a faithful adaptation, but I'm still happy with this movie. In the DVD commentary, Jeffrey Combs expressed regret over a couple of lines, and they are honestly my favorite lines. And the two lines are, "Who's going to believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow." Mentioning that the talking head part in theaters got such a laugh that the "get a job in a sideshow" part often went unheard, which was his personal favorite line. And thankfully, I was too young when this movie came out in theaters. I'm glad I saw it on home video, because "get a job in a sideshow," it makes me laugh so much. Just his delivery of that performance makes me laugh so much. And all the other movies we've talked about with Jeffrey Combs and the 31 Days of Halloween, absolutely one of my favorites. Jeffrey Combs played this character to a T. No one else can be Herbert West. I'm sorry. Jeffrey Combs is Herbert West. And that line just gets me every time. Barbara Crampton, the beautiful and so talented Barbara Crampton, plays our female lead. And she stunned the guys and the script writers and all this with a question that none of them had pondered before, regarding the scene where Hill's body sneaks into the morgue wearing a medical prop head, and said if he placed the fake head on his shoulders, why couldn't he just place the real head on his shoulders and act like he was never decapitated? And they had no answer. They just kind of looked at each other, and that's it. To me, that's just so funny. John Nolan worked on the film's gruesome makeup effects using what he described as disgusting shots brought out from the Cook County morgue of all kinds of different lividities and different corpses. He and Gordon also used a book of forensic pathology in order to present how a corpse looks once the blood settles in the body, creating a variety of odd skin tones. And these characters that come back to life after being dead look so great and so horrifying and so gross. And phenomenal job done by these great practical makeup effects artists. And as you know, if you've been watching since day one, I love practical effects. So great. Herbert West was one of Jeffrey Combs' first lead roles. He almost ended up typecast for it. He has done other roles, but he's mainly a horror actor. And you know, especially been horror, and a lot of Lovecraftian horror is featured in, which I love Lovecraft, and I love Jeffrey Combs, so that's a good mixture for me. and I can understand how some actors may not feel that way. He hasn't expressed whether that's been a negative for him or not, but Jeffrey Combs was another person I got to meet, and I was I was so starstruck meeting Jeffrey Combs. I didn't say a word. I got a picture with him. I was so happy to get a picture with him, but I didn't say one word to him. And oh my God, what was wrong with me? Literally, I was the only one in line. I could have talked to him about all of his films and how much I love him, and I didn't say anything. And I kick myself in the butt because I wish I could have talked to him. And that's one thing about meeting celebrities. You have to realize they're just people. They're just like me and you. They're people. Talk to them. Don't be starstruck. I have gotten over that. When meeting Lance Henriksen, I got to talk to him for a little while. John Barrowman, I got to talk to for a little while. Milo Ventimiglia, I'm sorry, I always butcher that last name. He was super cool. My sister's a huge fan of hers, and she wasn't able to make it to the convention, and he was so nice enough. We tried to get her on the phone. Fortunately, she missed the phone call, and he left her one of the sweetest voicemails, and I thank him so much for that. And I know I'm going way off from what we were talking about, but talk. If you're in a line at a convention, talk to people. Talk to these celebrities. Don't feel like, oh, I gotta hurry up. Like, I understand that a little bit, but say something to them. Tell them you appreciate them. They will appreciate it. But they will. They'll be very thankful for it. And if you get one that doesn't, that's okay. I have, in the past, I have a couple people I had a little bad experiences for, and I chalk that up to a bad day, and I will give them a second chance. I like to give a lot of people a lot of chances. Talk to people. Barbara Crampton talked about doing nude scenes in this and other films during a 2014 interview. Anything I did was always part of the film and part of the story. I don't think that anything I ever did felt like I shouldn't be doing this, or I'm scared to do it, or that it would hurt my career if I did it. There are a lot of people who are movie viewers who have varying degrees on what they think and how they feel about sexuality and nudity. There's a lot of social and moral issues involved in people's minds and their upbringing. But for me, as an actor, if it's part of the story, I'll do it, and I'll probably continue to do it. I don't know if anybody's going to want to see a wrinkled old grandmother, Barbara Crampton, but if it's part of the story, I'll do it. Barbara Crampton, to this day, is still beautiful. The last thing I saw her in was Beyond the Gates, low budget, great horror film, and she plays the female villain pretty much, and she does such a great job in that, and still beautiful, still absolutely beautiful. And talented and everything. And you know, there's a lot of issue with nudity nowadays, and if you're not comfortable, don't do it. And I don't want to get on a soapbox and talk about breastfeeding. I have no problem with breastfeeding in public. That doesn't bother me at all. Okay, if a guy can walk around without his shirt on, a woman should be able to feel comfortable without being oogled and obligated and like don't treat people like you would like to be treated. Okay? Don't ogle someone. Let's make a separate video about that. Let's continue on. I'm getting way off track here. Jeffrey Combs recalls having to feed David Gale, who plays Dr. Hill, cigarettes during the scene where Hill's head is on the tray on the table because he was in that position for hours and couldn't reach his own face. So Jeffrey, he ashed the cigarette for him, which is super cool, a lot of actors, when they're kind of stuck in that position, it's, oh, I'm not going to do this role, I'm not going to do that, and to have actors that can work together, you know, and even though they may be villains and all that, blah blah blah, but the fact that they can work together and you know and mesh well, that's fantastic. That's what movie making is about. It's about getting along with everyone, making a great product for an audience to see. Loosely based on the H.P. Lovecraft story, Jeffrey Combs steals the show as Herbert West, with great supporting actors like Bruce Abbott, Barbara Crampton, and David Gale. This movie is not one to be missed. Great practical effects, gruesome fun, some very uncomfortable moments. Like I said, if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And a finale that is so goringly satisfying for any horror fan. I give this movie 4.5 reagents out of 5. Highly recommend it, whether you're a Jeffrey Combs fan, just a casual horror fan, or an H.P. Lovecraft fan. Give it a shot. Thank you all so much for watching an idiot in his basement blab about his favorite horror movies. I truly do appreciate all the support, likes, and comments. Thank you so much. Remember, we truly live in a weird world, so please go out and experience it. Experience all new chapters. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day.